A very warm welcome to another episode of the Media Talk Show series. This is where we talk about everything and anything about the media professional, creating a peer learning and veteran experience sharing platform. I am so passionate about how we can all learn, latch on one another to glean from our various experiences working in an industry, whether on TV, radio, whether in the print media or the digital media. As we all know, if you are not in that space, you must be playing. All right. Every now and then, I bring someone to share from their experience, to share something new they are doing or something they've been doing and how they have been successful at it. Today, we're going to be taking a look at what we call successfully having a niche for yourself as a media professional. Successfully having a niche as a media professional. You might want to ask, we are told to be versatile, to be able to do different things because the media landscape has evolved. Again, a lot of things has changed. And so no one is hiring just one person for one role. They are hiring people that can do different things. So how do we balance versatility with having a niche for yourself as a media professional? Why is this important? I like to quickly take a quote to put in perspective why we are talking about having a niche for yourself. Quoting from Tony Robbins, he says, "The more focused you are, the more successful you will be." The more focused you are, the more successful you will be. You will agree that having a niche for oneself talks about specializing in specific services, goods, expertise, or whatever. So we're going to get down to it. But first of all, let me welcome my wonderful guest, who is a friend and a brother. And we've been in this industry for a long while now. He's a voice well known on radio for many things. I want to make welcome Michael Olatunbosun.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy.
I want to talk a bit about who our guest, Michael Olatunbosun. You might have known him, you've listened to him on air talking about current affairs, but there's so much more to Michael Olatunbosun that you do not know. And I like to just share a bit of some of the things that he's been up to and he's doing. Michael Olatunbosun is a broadcast journalist with over 15 years experience in the industry. He works at Splash FM 105.5 Ibadan, where he is a producer and presenter of Talking Points, a current affairs program. And of course, the program Books Splash. He's a booksman, always reading. He's going to be telling us how many books he has read so far. He is the presenter and producer of the program Books Splash, a program designed to promote reading. And I tell you, Michael is a voracious reader. Michael is also a fact checker and the 2021 Dubawa Kwame Karikari Fact-Checking Fellow. He is a child rights campaigner and the 2017 Malala Grant Winner for Child Rights Advocacy. Michael is also a writer, teacher, and a trainer, and currently head of training at Splash FM Media Academy in Ibadan. Michael is a member of many associations and coalitions, including Freedom of Information Network, Civil Society Coalition on Sustainable Development Goals, and Association of Nigerian Authors. Many feathers to your clap. I celebrate you, Michael Olatunbosun. Once again, you're going to be sharing a lot with us on your journey as a media professional and how you have been able to have a niche for yourself. Let's get down to it. Now, when we talk about carving a niche, I did mention a bit about what carving a niche meant, a specialization of some sort.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what does it mean to carve a niche for oneself, particularly in terms of our career generally?
Okay, so just like you quoted earlier, focus is very important. And so having a niche derives from focus. And why do we have to focus? It's important to also know ourselves. You cannot focus on something if you don't even know yourself and your capabilities and what you can do and what you are able to do with what you have. I mean, the skills and the talents that you have. So having a niche is very important, particularly in the direction that the world is going today. The world is looking for specialists, while it's also looking for people who are broad-minded and who are broad skilled. Allow me that expression. So in other words, it's important to focus on something and do it well. And it's also important to also be able to do other things, so that if the door does not open for you because you can do one specific thing, the door will still open because you can do other things. Just like you said, today in our media industry, someone told me this, a trainer who came to our station to train us. He said that in those days, for instance, look at the stations that we used to know in those days, that we grew up to know, the NTAs and the rest of them. If they are going for a report, they will have a driver. Okay? They have a driver, they have somebody who will carry the camera, and then they have the reporter. So those are three people going for just one assignment. But today, one person will confidently do the three assignments. So that one person will carry his camera, that one person will take his notepads, that same person will also do a report. So in other words, that's about being a specialist or being dynamic. But at the same time, it has to do with being a specialist, knowing what you can do and what you can do well. A lot of people don't know what they can do well. They just think that they can do many things. So it's important, just like you say, jack of all trades, the master of none. Well, if you know how to do something well, it's not bad to be able to do other things. But the focus thing, the word focus that I'm playing upon, is being able to do one thing and being known for that one thing. That is the important for me, and that's the signal that you have a niche, that you have a value that you can deliver, that people can say, okay, what specific thing stands you out? That is being a niche person. And that's my own perspective about having a niche and how to go about it.
Fantastic. I like the way you were able to draw a balance in terms of be good in one thing, but you can do so many other things. The power of focus. All right. You have carved a niche for yourself in current affairs presentation and book reviews, and that's the big one for me. How did you get here?
First, I grew up in a community, the family where you had, a lot of people with different perspectives. So in my home, even with my father in the house, we used to debate a lot. We used to discuss a lot. And I remember that my father used to buy at least 6 newspapers every day.
Wow.
So he was not going to be reading the newspapers. He will buy the newspaper. He had a lot of children. So he will now share the newspapers to all of us. So you take Punch, you take Sketch, when Sketch was there, you take Tribune and all that. So all of us will read the newspapers. And then he will ask us to tell him what we read in the papers. So I began to generate interest in politics, in economy, in business, in commerce, in so many things at that time. So it started from home. So current affairs started from home, and my father was very dynamic, even though he was a clergyman. He was so dynamic that he could discuss many things. He was well traveled. So this was a man who would engage us, who would ask us questions. Sports were there, business were there. He was a businessman and he was also a clergyman. So we were going to shop together. We were going to the market. He would send us on errands and all that. So I developed that aptitude of engaging on current issues at that time.
Nice.
And so when it comes to book, I'm a book person. I've always been reading, because I think when we were growing up, we were told that you have to read and read and read in order to excel. So that mindset stuck with me over the years, even up to now, that even in my house, I have a book club in my house where I make my children read. I incentivize reading in the house. So I say, read this book. When you finish, come and do a précis of what's in the book, and then get an amount of money. So I believe that reading will open your mind. And that was exactly what happened to me. Reading newspapers from when I was very young. I think I started reading newspapers I think I was in primary 4 or so when I started reading newspapers, because there was newspaper everywhere in the house. You understand? So it was not difficult to become a reader in my house, because there was something to read. Something on the table, something on the dining table, something in the sitting room, newspapers. My father had a whole room filled with newspapers. So it was sort of an archive for me. So I was reading, cutting out sections of newspapers and all that. So those helped me to learn to discuss current issues, and also be able to read very vastly. So those two things impacted my career up to now. That it's not difficult to discuss, because you cannot discuss what you have not read, or what you have not observed. So I observe, I read, and I discuss. And I'm a talker. I talk a lot.
I see it already. I mean, it's so interesting to know that your dad had something to do with your love for reading.
Yeah.
So it's a journey of, when you were doing those reading, then you didn't think it would culminate into did you ever think that you were going to end up in the media space, in the media career?
Yes, I think that epiphany, I call it an epiphany. It happened to me, I think I was in primary 6, when I decided that I was going to do media. My mother was posted to Calabar then as a branch manager to one of the businesses my father owned. So one of my brothers went to Polytechnic of Calabar to study mass communication. And then they had a campus radio, an experimental radio on campus. I used to listen to them. So I caught the bug there. But before that, I was watching these great people on TV, Shola Omole, your Momo, Ruben Amaisia, even Sadiq Daba, Makdazi. These people were the ones who filled our living rooms those days when I was growing up. So because of that, I began to like what they were doing. I began to like the finesse that they brought to what they were doing and all that. And then I fell in love with the profession. And so here we are today.
Interesting. I know of it. I worked with you, I think back then, in the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, which I didn't even remember that I used to be your producer until the day you wrote that long epistle about how I've worked with you and how somehow I've impacted on your career journey, So, and I remember that you were one of those that, according to the experts, the professionals, we say does not have the radio voice. We always pride ourselves in this. This one is trainable. This one is not speaking that very high phonetic stuff. Tell us briefly how you. For me, I've watched you. You worked in Diamond FM.
Yes.
I've watched you have this staying power. You have been resilient in spite of when they say, "Oh, this guy he's not supposed to be in the media, he's not speaking, he's not sounding like some of the voices we hear." You have had this very stubborn, resilient intent to work in the media. And tell us how, in spite of you, tell us how you felt that this is what you are supposed to be doing, and how you invariably carved a niche for yourself, because I think it was carving a niche for yourself that stood you out as a current affairs person and a book reviewer. Just tell us a bit about how you were resilient and discovered that, okay, I'm good in this, regardless of what they are saying, I'm going to put in what I need to put, and here you are.
So I think that I should track back to my university days. So when I got to university, I went to UI to study communication and language arts. So one of my lecturers, I approached him one day and told him I wanted to, I think I was in 100 level or thereabouts. So I told him I wanted to do broadcasting as a major. So he asked me a very big question, and that was a challenge that actually pushed me. He said, "You want to do radio or TV?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "But you know that you don't have the voice."
Wow.
In those days, it used to be this deep voice that was always on radio and all that. So I said,
baritone voices.
yeah, exactly. So I said, yes, I know I don't have the voice. So he now asked the question. And that was a question that has pushed me. He said, so what do you have to compensate for the voice that you don't have?
Wow.
That was the question that he asked me. So he now said that, okay, so go and think. So I went back home and I began to think, what do I have to compensate for my poor voice? So, and I stumbled upon something.
You're in quotes, poor voice.
In quotes, my poor voice. So I stumbled upon something because I'm a writer. I've been writing right from when I was in secondary school. I used to write poems. By the way, those days we used to write poems for girls. That was how we started.
You were toasting girls.
Yes, now. So I began to think. So I like to describe myself as a stylist. I like to think of myself as non-conventional. So I began to think, okay, what can you now do? So I stumbled upon the fact that I could speak English language the way I wanted. So I sat down, I added my writing ability, my writing skill to it, and I began to craft words for myself. Okay, so if you speak well, if you speak English language sweetly, people they will look away from, they will never mind the fact that you don't have that radio,
that posh,
exactly.
posh voice.
Exactly. So, and that was what I did. So I began to train myself on how to speak or how to write well. So, and because I believe in sound, I believe in alliteration. That's what we call it in literature. So I began to sit down. I will now pair words, write words in pair, peevish persons, poor partners. I began to write like that. I began to use alliteration and I began to use them in my conversations. So that was what helped me with persistence. Of course, I'm a very persistent person. Is one of my most important skills is persistence. I call it a skill. It's persistence. I want to persist because I believe in the forge theory. When the Yorubas say that so I believe that if you continue the same thing, you will get noticed. So yes. That was what helped me. And interestingly, that was what got me my first experience on television. I actually started on television. At NTA, I used to be a part of a crew. The program was called NTA Vigil, Friday nights. I just used to write poetry for them. They will read my poems and acknowledge, but I wanted something more. So one day, I persisted and the guy gave me a 5-minute segment. I did the 5-minute segment for some weeks. And then I was told that I was needed in the office of the zonal general manager. And in this our industry, those days, if they told you that the general manager wanted to see you,
it means you have done something wrong.
You have done something wrong. There's trouble for you. So I was troubled. But then someone said, don't worry, just go and see her. So I went to see her and she said, we're starting a network program. We don't put freelance or non-staff people on network programs, but I'm going to put you on network. I think this program that used to run every morning, before it came to Saturday. So it was a Saturday morning program. And she said something that struck me. And that told me that my persistence paid off eventually. She said, I like the way you speak English language. That was what she told me. And that was it for me. So eventually my effort brought a trophy for me to say someone that big, someone that high up, in NTA, to say, I like the way you speak the English language. I think for me, that was it. That was the clincher for me. And so because of that, I persisted. I trained myself. And I also teach. I teach English language in a seminar. So I'm very strong on vocabulary development,
And
because
grammar.
and yet I believe that that's what makes you a speaker or a communicator. Even if you are a writer, vocabulary is very key for you. And so that's what has helped me. That's what has helped me. And then much later, I landed at Radio Nigeria. And so let me give you an experience that I had. And benefit of hindsight, I think that is something we need to correct.
Okay.
I went for auditioning at Radio Nigeria and I failed twice.
Mm.
And I was given a news bulletin to read. And I was told that I was not good enough. Now, let me tell you, now I know after many years, and I think that it is wrong to assume that everybody wants to read the news.
The news, yes,
Because I cannot read the news. I don't read the news, but I can present. So, but when you go to audition, what they give you news script, I think it is wrong. I think it's important to ask the person, what exactly do you want?
Well, okay, so now that we're having this conversation, I totally agree with you. And again, the media landscape has evolved. I think back then, we didn't know any better than to say, okay, even if you are not going to be a news reader, you need to have the voice to be able to do even your presentation chores. I am not a news reader as well. I present. I'm a core content creator, conceptualization, packaging content. But I also do presentation chores. I hold programs, I do live shows, I do interviews, I host shows like I'm doing now. So I think the idea then was basically to say, okay, at least have the voice. We were measuring the voice. But I think now we know better. To say, okay, when you want to audition people, you might want to give them options. You can give them news reading bulletin, a bulletin to read the news. You can also ask them to sit in or talk about presentation, give them something to present apart from news reading. But I think, again, it's always to test whether the person has the voice or not. And the yardstick for measuring whether a voice is suitable for the media, again, I think over the years we have learned that,
it doesn't work that way.
That having a niche, as a matter of fact, as a matter of what we are discussing, is much more than news reading. Some of us will be fantastic news readers. Some of us will be fantastic interviewers. And some of us will be doing different things, because again, in the media space, there's so much that you can do. You can either be in the forefront of production, or you can be behind the scene. There are many people behind the scene that are the ones making the people we are hearing or seeing.
Exactly.
The cameraman behind the scene, they are like, we should be celebrating them. The producer behind, who is not a presenter, the sound engineer. There are many people working behind the scene to make that star that we are celebrating who they are. So I agree totally with you. Now, taking it forward, I want you to quickly, again, in having a niche, I know Book Splash is one program that you have carried from every media organization that you've worked in. So maybe you can quickly tell us why so they didn't give you program, you created a program for yourself. That's the way I see it. Sometimes in having a niche for yourself, the organization may not even have the program that you are good in. So what inspired you starting the Book Splash, and it has survived all these years, from one station to the other?
Okay, so the Book Splash idea, it was a co-created idea at Splash FM. But the journey began, I think, in 2000 and I think 2006 or thereabouts. I was restless. I wanted to get into the media by all means. So when I got to the media, and we were told to go back home, at NTA, we were told to go back home and all that. So I was restless. I was lecturing at a seminary. So what I did was I thought of the idea of a program that would talk about educational matters, educational policy, educational budget, and how far education is delivering its mandate for the nation. So I created a program, and that was a program that you produced at Premier FM at that time. So I created a program called Education Network. But there was I needed money. So I convinced the seminary where I was teaching that they needed to, advertise. And then they agreed to advertise. So they brought out money. And then I paid for airtime and I came to Premier FM. That was when we met and you produced, alongside other people, produced the program. So I got a bookshop to advertise as well. So they asked me what offering I had at that time. So I told them, I said, you have books in your store. You could always do a 5 minutes book review of each of the books that you have, and then tell our listeners, you have had a bit of this book. If you want this book, go to the bookshop and buy. That was how Booksplash, that was the idea behind Booksplash.
How the Booksplash started, and then you ran with it. Great,
that was how I ran with it. So when I got to Splash FM, I'd written a paper. There was a paper someone commissioned me to write for Ekiti State government on, making book reading a statewide exercise. So I wrote the paper at that time. It was a voluminous paper. I wrote a proposal and all that. We couldn't get Ekiti State government to endorse it at that time. So I kept the paper for myself. So when I came to Splash, I met a colleague who was a writer, or who is a writer. And then we began to exchange ideas and the rest of it. And then the idea of Booksplash came up. So we wrote a proposal. I just brought the paper that I wrote for Ekiti State government. I just, changed a couple of things, and then the management accepted it. And I need to mention something. Baba, the chief accountant who owns Splash FM, the organization that owns Splash FM, someone who believes in the intellectual. He believes that you need to, engineer the mind to create a better nation. So it was not difficult for him to accept the idea of a Booksplash on radio. And then I think we started in December of 2014 or thereabouts. And since 2015 or so, we have been running Booksplash. So when we started, it was alternate weeks. I would do 1 week. If Oluwapo would do the other week. And then when she traveled out of Nigeria, it was just
the whole thing fell on you.
It fell on me.
And the Booksplash has been running for 10 years. Amazing. Yes. Amazing. There's a lot of things I've picked from, your conversation. The fact that that profound statement your lecturer said, you don't have the voice, what do you have? And I guess that is what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Having a niche for yourself is asking the question, what do I have?
Mm-hmm.
What am I good at? What stands me out? What am I passionate about? So it's sort of like a self-discovery of, I'm comfortable presenting this kind of program.
Exactly.
I enjoy doing this kind of thing. In your own case, reading,
yes,
education, the grammar and all of that matter to you. And then you dovetail towards what was your strength,
yes,
instead of dragging things with other people where it is not your strength. Now, one of the things that you have also done is train as a fact checker. There is no stopping with you, no dull moments with you. Tell us how you got into the space of fact checking, and how has this skill contributed to your having a niche for yourself and your success in the industry.
Okay, so I got into fact checking by, first of all, arguing with callers of my program. My program is caller based. So, people will call into the program and say something, and then you say, no, wait, this thing is not correct. No, it's not correct. So you begin to, argue with callers to say, no, that's not correct. For instance, someone called me on my program and said that Oyo State is the largest state in Nigeria. That was what that person said. And I said, no, that's not correct. And then he said, you people are the ones. I said, no, go and read. When they say Oyo State is larger than the 5 states of the Southeast, it does not mean that it is the largest state in Nigeria. So I told him, I said, Niger State is even the largest state in Nigeria. And then you have Borno State and the rest of it. So I began to do fact checking unconsciously. without even knowing that it was called
Fact-check.
fact-checking. So, but I think that somewhere along the line, someone just sent some piece, I think a piece of information to me about Dubawa, looking for fellows and the rest of. So I applied, and then the way Dubawa does its thing is to, when you apply to be a fact checker, you are told to include something that you have done before. At that time, I hadn't done any fact checking, deliberately put fact checking on record and all that. So I told them honestly during the interview, because they will interview you. So I told them during the interview that I have not done any fact checking deliberately, but I believe that my every waking moment, particularly my every microphone moment, is a fact checking moment. And so I told them that, well, so that's what I do almost every time, because my program is audience based. And the audience can be funny. Someone can just call you and make a statement, and then you have to correct. You have to tell them that, no, that's not correct.
You have to give them the facts.
Yeah, so that was how my fact-checking journey started. So I got into Dubawa, and I've never looked back. I've attended all kinds of trainings after that. Dubawa trained us, they trained us, and then we began to do fact-checking every week. So you have to look for something to fact-check every week. So, it also expanded my horizon. Things that I never bothered about, I began to get interested in them. And so that was how it began. And here we are today. So I thank God for the opportunity of Dubawa. I now train people to be fact checkers. So that's something I've added to my list. Although when you say niche, sometimes I'm even confused. So if they ask me what is my niche, what would I even say?
So I think your niche. So the thing is this: our giftings, some of our giftings and talents, some are innate, that are found and honed as we go on. Some we acquire along the way. But if you look at in your own case now, there is something that is peculiar to all that you can do. There is always something that is common, a common denominator. So the current affairs is bookish, book review is bookish, fact checking is bookish, because it will require you to read, to research. So again, you are a researcher. You are a language-based person. You are a very information-driven person. You have thirst for knowledge. So you can see that all of these things that you can do, there is an element of this in all of it. Not everybody will enjoy data gathering, because fact checking requires a lot of reading, research, data gathering, book review. I don't know how you do it. How many books have you reviewed? Do you know the number?
Well, I'm not sure whether I can do that, but I know
an average number.
I know that there are 52 weeks in a year. At least I do 40 books
in a year, and you have been doing book splash for 10 years. So multiply that by 10 years. So that's a lot of books. Too many people are interested in doing. They read books, but not too many people are interested. So your niche is, you have a strong desire for research, knowledge, anything that requires you, reading and fact checking. So there's a common,
there's a change.
Yes, there is a common element to it, and there is always. So that means that to be versatile is just to express your gifting, your skills, acquired or innate, in different levels.
Yeah, so that's what I do. So because I'm research minded, I try to put this research into everything that I do. So in current affairs, I put research into it. Book review, I put research into it. Fact checking, there's research in it. I also preach. I'm a preacher as well. So you have to research.
You have to research and read and study.
So you can't do without that. So for me, every moment is a research moment, and so that's what I brought into my career as a broadcaster. Exactly.
So that's how you've been able to carve a niche for yourself.
Yes.
Now, the essence of carving a niche for oneself, I want to presume that all of these things you are saying has earned you some form of remuneration. So what are the benefits of, what are some of the things you have gained from carving a niche for yourself? So again, people need to know why it is important. What I presume, maybe if I want to mention, before you talk, I want to mention, you must have made some money. You must have gotten some recognition and awards. You know, things. You must have been invited to rooms. So can you share a bit of how having a niche for yourself has been beneficial to your career and to you as an individual?
Okay, so you have mentioned the money part, but it's not a lot of money, anyways.
But it's some money, some extra from your salary. I mean, the idea of having a niche is that you get to earn something extra. So that's the truth. And in this profession, people say there's no money. There's money if you position yourself well. You understand? So it is some extra. Extra means of earning, which is don't be little lit. You don't want us to know that you're a billionaire.
So first, the benefits that I have derived from having a niche for myself, first of all, is the gratification that I am doing something and it is getting noticed. We are human beings, and a part of us seeks some kind of validation. Of course, my own validation is intrinsic. My own satisfaction is inside, that I am making an impact.
Yes.
That's the most important for me. So every other thing that I will mention after are just the add-ons. So for me, it is important to get to be fulfilled, to feel fulfilled, to know that you are fulfilled, because there are two different things. Knowing and feeling are two different things. To know that you are fulfilled and to be happy that you are impacting society. Because I believe that society needs people to do one thing or the other, do something extra.
To make a difference. We all have contributions to make to our society.
Exactly. So that's number two. So believing that I am satisfied doing something and then seeing the something that I am doing. So that's important for me. So the benefit is that when I go out, I get to see people who are reading and who are making reference to my program or any other related program. I also believe that, the scripture, because I'm a believer in the scripture, the scripture talks about a man who is diligent in his work.
In his work.
He says that he will dine with princes and nobles. So I am getting noticed by the princes and nobles. And I'm happy that, okay, so this is it. It's coming back to me. So all those days of burning candles, of doing
hard work,
night and all that, it is paying off. And while I am not relaxing, I believe that because recognition should spur you to do more. So added to the gratification that is intrinsic, the gratification that you are seeing, that what you are doing is making impact, the gratification coming from getting noticed, and then the extra that it brings, the money that it brings. So I get commissioned now to read a book and review. I get commissioned now.
And you get paid for it.
I get paid, of course. So when I do book review, I get paid. And you see, when I mention my fee, people say, what about you? And then I say, why don't you read the book by yourself? If a book is 400 pages, you know the number of days I will spend reading the book.
The hours, yeah.
The hours. And then, so because reading is one thing, writing the review is another. So I'm doing like three things. I am reading, I am assimilating what's in the book, and then I'm trying to represent what my own perception of the book. And by the way, a book review for me, so one other thing that I want to mention in my line of book review is my book review is also non-conventional. I am a non-conventional person. So a lot of book reviews are too academic. So for me, I think that we should make book reviews less academic and lighter, to the extent that, because the whole essence is to attract people to go and look for the book.
So what is sellable about this book? Why should I read it? Why should I buy it?
So I don't concentrate too much on the theme, on the plot, on the subplot, on the literary tradition. Is it Roman? Is it Roman? Is it those things will confuse the listener to say
readers don't even care. Readers don't care about all of that.
What's important is this is what I have said in the book. This is why the book is important for you to read. That's what I do in my own book review, because a lot of people have criticized me, particularly those who studied English, who studied this thing in universities, to say you are not talking about the bad side of the book. I remember one book that I reviewed recently, some months ago. Someone attacked me and said that I didn't talk about the bad side of the. It's more like someone wrote about the president that he worked with, and the people said that the president was bad. Why didn't you write it in your review? I said, so I have reviewed the book. So if you want to know my perception about the president, tune into my program on radio, because book flash is a different.
That's a different thing. It's not an opportunity to begin to blacklist or bad name someone.
So it allows me to possess the minds of writers, and that's basically what I want to represent to my listeners or those who are reading me. So those are the things that I have benefited from book review particularly, or book splash, or what I do. Gratification, money has come. I want more money, but I know that more money will come. And the fact that I am impacting society is the most important for me, because any society where people don't read, that society is on its way down. Read. They say leaders are leaders. Well, it will open your mind to new horizons. You will travel to worlds or to nations, to countries that you probably will not be able to travel to in your lifetime. In books, there are books written about almost every country in the world. There are books written about weather conditions in many places. There are books written about life under water. There are books written about space and time. There are books written about history. There are books written about kingdoms or empires that have, reigned in the world, the Greco-Roman world and the rest of them. You can know all these things by just sitting down and reading a book. So that is what I want. I want a people who will be broad-minded on account of what they have read. And that's how we will make our nation great. And a nation where people are not reading, that nation is not ready. That nation is not ready to join development.
A very big advocate of reading.
Yes, it does.
Yes, I see you are so passionate about it, and that has shown why you have carved a niche for yourself in the media space, talking about book, current affairs, fact-checking, and all of that. And all of these have paid off. All of these have brought you into rooms that you probably would not have gotten there. All of these have brought you into opportunities to have fellowships and training. It has given you an opportunity to have extra income, beyond your workspace. It has given you fulfillment, that you are doing something that you are impacting. So I guess, again, that is what having a niche does for every one of us in the industry. Exactly. That means for us to carve a niche for ourselves, from what you said, media professionals need to be resilient.
Yes.
They need to search, do a soul search. You need to check yourself. What are you good at? Stop trying to be everybody else. Yes, you may start out doing different things, learning the ropes, but look at what you are comfortable, your areas of niche, your areas of expertise, where you are comfortable, where you are passionate in. You can, even if there is no program or article or digital media content that anyone is doing, you can create. While I was in working in the mainstream media, earning a salary, I can tell you there were a number of programs that I initiated. Sometimes they say there's no program, and sometimes I have an idea, or my boss brings an idea, and out of that idea, I present and propose a program. And I can't count how many programs that I proposed, and many of those programs flourished, and stood me out. And today, a lot of things I can, trace back to all of that. So carve a niche for yourself, find your voice. If you are what do you want to say now to new entrants, people that are just coming into the profession, about carving a niche? And then maybe mention people that are already in the system, but are not seeing placing value, because you place value on what you know how to do.
Yes.
That's what I see. You place value. Book reading can just be like, maybe it's book reading. What's inside it? You understand? Shebi is
Yeah.
current affairs. Everybody's talking about current affairs. Normal. That's what a media organization should be doing. But you know, when you place value, premium value on it, it expands. So, what would you want to say to new entrants into the profession about having a niche, and then maybe also talk to our colleagues who are already practicing about finding themselves if they are belittling what they have or can't do?
People who want to get into the industry today should study the industry first, because it has become wide and wild. Why do I say wild? Because almost everybody wants to do the same thing. And I think that it's important for people to stand out. And so I try to stand out. And I think that people who want to get into the industry today need to understand that you need to stand out. So if you want to present sports, for instance, look at sports. The presentation space for sports is very, very wide. Almost everybody is presenting sports. So, but what you should ask yourself is, what can I bring to sports presentation that will stand me out? Not just to copy everybody. So,
Yes.
so be original, but you need a large dose of introspection to ask yourself, so this thing, I have seen it, and this is what I like, but what can I do differently? That is very important. So you want to present current affairs. What do you want? What spice can you add to your current affairs that will make you stand out? Don't come and copy Edmond. Don't come and copy Michael. Don't come and copy Shewakiola. Come and do your current affairs as you, not as someone else. So find your voice. And like I said again, I'm going to repeat it. Finding your voice or finding your niche or knowing yourself will require a large dose of introspection. You think, lock yourself up in a room and sit down and ask yourself, what do I have to offer?
Yes.
You have to find it. That's one. Two, don't do what everybody see. I sometimes when I look at the landscape, I just see almost every radio station, they are
doing the same thing.
Do something else. You will find somebody who will find value in what you are doing or what you are offering. Don't be in a hurry to join the bandwagon and then get lost. Because a lot of people will get in and get lost. So they will just discover that they have lost the spark, or the audience is no more responding to them because you are not different. So that's what I try to do. I try, even in my dressing, I try to be different. I tell people, so if everybody is wearing shirt and trouser, I will just wear buba. And
you'll be the African man.
Yeah. Because I want to be identifiable in the crowd. And again, I want to use the analogy. So you go to Amala joint, right? If you go to Amala joint. So the analogy is this. When we go to Amala joint and then they say, serve me Amala and Ewedu and Begiri. You know what you used to do when they want to buy the goat meat? You say, yeah.
Is that one I want? Yes.
So how did you identify that one?
Something stood out.
I want to be identified that way in a crowd. So try to be identifiable in a crowd. Don't just look like every other person in the industry. Don't sound like every other person. I don't sound like every other person, and I am happy that I don't sound like every other person, because people would not have been able to notice me
if you have been sounding like everybody else.
Sounding like everybody.
And you wouldn't have even been able to, because you had a lot to grapple with before you found your feet in the industry.
Yes. I've been told that I don't sound like some people, and I've told them that I will not sound like other people. I am Michael Olatunbosun. I am not this other person. And that's what is going on in the industry, in music industry. There used to be one musician who used to sing like Ayuba. You remember him? You see, it will be difficult to remember somebody who is sounding like
an original person.
So that's the point. You will get lost in the crowd, and then you would also get assessed by the standards of that person.
Instead of by your own standards.
So, create your own personality and run with it. For the people who are in the industry, I think we should look away from the distraction of the clicks and the likes. We should offer value, because the clicks and the likes have become distracting. And it's so disheartening that we are almost turning the media to giveaway platform because it is bringing the audience. Okay, it's okay to do giveaway. Let just one person do giveaway. You two do
Not
something.
all the programs doing giveaway. Yeah.
It is so disheartening that everybody wants to be doing giveaway now. See, we forget that we used to have an identity. And that's very important. Identity is very important. Identifying yourself and staying on your lane is important. That's for those who practice in the industry, because I see a lot of people want to copy other people. Because somebody has 10,000 views, you too want to have 10,000 views, therefore you do what that person did. Why don't you do your own kind of thing to get the 10,000 views? Those are my words for new entrants and those who are in the industry.
Thank you so much. There's a lot to cash in on. Talking about don't follow the clicks and the bandwagon. Find your own voice. I think most times we also do not value what we can do. We think that, oh, Michael is a book reviewer, therefore Michael is getting noticed, he's better than me. Whereas people like Michael for his book review, they like me for my storytelling.
That's it.
And and there are people that will gravitate towards me with my storytelling, and there are many people that will gravitate towards Michael for his storytelling. So again, like we say in the media, everybody is not your audience.
Yes.
We always say, who are your audience? The audience of this program. You say everybody. No, there's no such thing. Everybody cannot be your audience. So also in carving a niche for yourself, your own audience is out there. Some people like different type of fish. Some like what they call it, catfish. Some like
tilapia. Some like tilapia.
So, and there is a market for all of them.
Exactly.
If you are selling, if you are a fish seller that is selling mackerel, tilapia, you are selling catfish, you will invariably sell all of it because different customers will come from their different brands of the fish. So look at carving a niche for yourself as, giving yourself a brand that the people that want you will find you, and it will be easy to find you because you are projecting what they want. So if you run under what other people look like, the people that should be looking for you will not be able to find you.
They won't.
And because you do not even look like the original, they will always go to the original, and you'll be left like, what's happening? Why is everybody gravitating towards this person? Why is nobody gravitating towards me? So it's very profound, and I really thank you for sharing from the depth of your heart. Any last words about our conversation to those watching and listening to us?
Okay, so I just want to re-emphasize or reiterate all that I've said. I think that it is not a crime to stand out and stand alone. And being able to stand out and stand alone is not a finished job. You have to keep working on yourself. So I try to do more. I try to research more. What more can I do better? What more can I add to what I'm doing already? How should I go about this other one that I'm also doing? Those are the things that I think that people should learn, or what I am trying to say to people today. And then also expand. So while you are narrowing down, also learn to also expand, so that if people are not eating your yam because of oil, they will eat it because you have added spice to it.
Yes.
So add spice to what you are doing. So somebody sang a song. You say, so
meaning
add style to what you are doing. Add panache to what you are doing. Add something to what you are doing, so that it will increase your reach. So there are probably some people who are not satisfied enough with what you are doing. If you add to what you are doing, they may get, converted to follow because you have added something. Maybe it's something that they were wishing that you had added that, a long time ago, and then you add it today. They'll say, oh, what he changed? Okay, let us see. Let us follow him and see what will happen next.
Thank you so much, Michael Olatunbosun. I love that your quote. It is not a crime to stand out and stand alone.
Yes.
Again, the person that will stand out will look like you are on top. You are up the pack, and that makes you more visible. So you should not be afraid. It makes you more visible. It means that more people are likely to gravitate towards you. And before other people see that thing, you have already cashed out. They say the first to arrive, you've already cashed out, and you have owned the space, before the other people will join you. And I want to, what comes to mind is people are not willing to put in the work. To carve a niche for yourself is extra work.
It is work.
It's work. It's work. And if you're not willing to do the work, don't expect the results that your colleague that is putting in the work is having. So if somebody is having results, the person is putting in the work. If you want to have results so even if you have a niche for yourself, you know that you are good in reading, in research, in storytelling, in presentation, and you're not ready to put in the extra work for the extra, because the extra always requires work. You cannot stand out.
Yes.
So to be good in something is not enough.
And it is discipline.
Yeah.
And it is discipline that keeps you going. See, I can tell you that there are times I open a book and I don't feel like finishing
reading.
Yeah. But because I have deadlines, I have to stick to it. Because of discipline, I have to say, no, this week I have to read a book. So I take the book up, I read it. So I was reading a book a couple of days ago. I read the book, I think I read about 2 chapters and I left the book. But when I remember that I already booked a date with the author, I went back to the
before you go there, you have not read the book. So you will not, having a niche, you will not feel like, there are days you will not feel like, there are days you feel tired. Like this media talk show, for the purpose of our conversation, I know what it takes me. It's like, in fact, I had a drag this morning. I couldn't pen down the questions until about 30 minutes to this show, because there were so many things, there were so many other deadlines, and I did not want to show up unprepared. That is very unprofessional. Yeah, so, and then I had to get my light, NEPA is there, dress up, powder, that is stress, powder face, dress up, so that you can, create and record a good content for the watching and listening audience. So the extra will not come easy. To be successful in carving a niche, you must put in the extra work, and don't be afraid to go alone sometimes, because eventually you'll get noticed. I like to end with this quote by Paul J. Meyer. He says, productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused efforts. I take it again. Productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. So the result that you seek is by having a niche and focusing. When you focus, you will have a niche for yourself. And then don't be afraid to evolve. Don't be afraid to use your gifting or your ability or learned or acquired skill can have expression in different formats, just like Michael has shared, can have expression. So don't be afraid to explore the different expressions of your skill, whether innate or acquired. Don't be afraid to, use the different expression of your gifting, of that which you can do. Well, I hope that our conversation is going to be helping you. As you have watched up until this point, it's going to be helping someone there make sense of their media career. And this is all about seeing each other succeeding and the industry becoming better. We don't want to be the only ones. We too, we are on the journey of learning. I'm on the journey of learning. I have not arrived at all. I'm still playing, But we want to see more people succeed. We want to see the industry do better. We want to see colleagues find joy and derive fulfillment and satisfaction doing what they know how to do. And then, of course, acquire a good quality of life. If you are doing something and the quality of your life is low, it can make it really, really stressful, and really, really you are demotivated. So the quality of life you are looking for is in the extra, is in defining your niche as a media professional. So I want to thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the Media Talk Show series on this edition. It's been a very insightful time together with you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come on the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you for the honor. I feel honored indeed. Thank you very much.
All right. And this is where we'll be wrapping it up on this edition of the program Media Talks Show series. See you on another episode with another interesting guest on some other impactful conversation. Like I always say, I am rooting for you. We are going to the top together, and beyond the sky is your limit. Keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing, and soon you will get the required visibility and opportunities will gravitate towards you. Catch you again next time. Bye.